Kansas City, this is GovLove, a podcast about local government. I'm Lauren Palmer, the Director of Local Government Services for the Mid-America Regional Council, and your host for this episode. GovLove is produced by ELGL, the Engaging Local Government Leaders Network. ELGL is currently looking for member and listener input on its new strategic plan, and yes, that includes the GovLove podcast. This is your chance to shape the future of ELGL, so visit elgl.org/strategic plan. That's elgl.org/strategic-plan to get involved, share your thoughts, and make a difference. Today I'm visiting with Danielle Dulin, City Manager of the City of Warrensburg, Missouri, and Captain Anna Koons of the Warrensburg Fire Department. Danielle and Anna, welcome to GovLove.
Thank you for having us. We're excited to be here.
Awesome. It's so great to have you. March is Women's History Month. At ELGL and the GovLove podcast, we celebrate the contributions of women in local government. So today we're going to learn about how the City of Warrensburg is embracing gender equality in its fire service. But first, we're going to start with our signature lightning round. Danielle, I'm going to throw this first question to you first. What is a food that you hate that most people enjoy?
I hate spaghetti.
You hate spaghetti?
I do. Food. I hate the noodles. And a penne tastes different than spaghetti.
Okay, so it's not all pasta.
No.
Okay, what is it about spaghetti?
It's just the spaghetti noodle. I think it's a texture thing. And like the long, slimy, round noodle. I don't know. I don't like it.
How do you feel about like fettuccine or angel hair?
It's okay. Angel hair is out too. Okay. But fettuccine's fine. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that's a new one. I have not heard that answer before. Anna, what about you?
It's amazing. I have a strong dislike for spaghetti. I absolutely cringe, and the crews always want to eat spaghetti, and it's on the no list. I just don't like spaghetti.
Did you guys coordinate on your answer?
No.
Oh my gosh. It's such like a... This is why we asked this question. It's a food that most people love. You've blown my mind, and I can't believe that you both hate it.
I don't know. I don't know if it's because I ate it so much growing up. Like my mom always wanted to make spaghetti. So that's funny.
I'm kind of getting a hankering for spaghetti, just hearing us talk about it. Okay. So next question, Anna, we'll let you go first. What is something that made you smile today?
Well, we got a new puppy. And he was very happy to see us and excited when I got up this morning and let him out. So that was pretty exciting.
Oh, gosh. We love dogs on the GovLove podcast. Tell me more about your puppy. What kind of a dog is he or she?
He is a mutt. We are actually fostering him from the animal shelter currently. We are looking at adopting him. So we're kind of in that in-between stage to make sure he's a good fit for our family.
What's his name?
Currently, I think it's Spud. We are looking to change it to Marshall to go along with the cartoon that has the firefighters, and it's Marshall. And he kind of looks like that. It's a white dog with a black spot around his eye, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, Paw Patrol.
Yes, Paw Patrol, that's it.
Paw Patrol dog. Oh, yeah, I think that's a great name. Well,
especially for a family full of firefighters, Anna.
Right.
Yeah, it's very on theme. Well, please tell Bud Marshall that we're rooting for him. We hope he passes his probationary fostering period.
Exactly.
And thank you for supporting your local shelter and loving on a pup. That made me smile hearing about your puppy. Danielle, what about you? What made you smile today?
Well, this morning I made it to my 5:45 a.m. spin class, and just kind of getting that day started with a little bit of physical activity and a good song. And I don't get to like go out and dance very often anymore. So really, like my excuse to go to workout classes is to just hear that kind of music and get pumped up and put my hands in the air. So I had a good spin class this morning.
Getting pumped up to do good local government work. I think that's inspiring. Glad to hear it. Way to take care of your body. Okay, and then we have one more question for you. Danielle, what is the last concert that you attended?
Man, I had to go back like pre-COVID to come up with a concert that I went to. So I could only remember the last concert I was supposed to go to that got canceled because of COVID. So I was supposed to go to a Sturgill Simpson, Tyler Childress concert at the Independence Center.
Yes.
And that one got canceled, and it's not going to get rescheduled because Sturgill Simpson has a like hernia on his vocal cords or something. So I'm really disappointed. I have seen him already, and I'm looking forward to seeing Tyler Childress in the future. But yes.
Gosh, yeah, that's why I've been asking this question more often in podcasts, because it is like kind of a stroll down memory lane. People have been out of the habit of seeing live music for the last couple of years. Anna, what about you? What's the last concert that you saw?
I saw Alan Jackson at the State Fair, and I'm so excited because Alan Jackson is coming back to Kansas City, and I will get to see him for his last concert series because he's going to retire after this.
Oh, they always say that, but then they make a comeback to
I
what?
don't know.
So
Either way, I'm going to his next concert.
yeah. Okay. Well, that's kind of cool that the last concert is going to be your next concert too. Must be you're a big fan.
Yes, I love his songs.
All right. Well, thanks for enduring our lightning round and letting us learn a little bit more about both of you. And now we'll get into the heart of our interview. We always like to start just kind of learning a little bit more about the communities that we are visiting on the podcast. So, Danielle, why don't you just introduce us to the City of Warrensburg? Tell us a little bit more about the community for those who may not have visited there.
Sure. So the City of Warrensburg is really in central Missouri. We are about an hour east of Kansas City, and on Highway 50. We are 20,000 in population, but every September we are joined by 12,000 students who attend the University of Central Missouri. We are the Fighting Mules. We are a D2 university. We are competitive in baseball, football, basketball, and then we also have the Jennies who are excellent in soccer and softball as well. So we love having the students in town. We also have Intersys, which is a battery producer, which I was, you think through these things, but really until you're in a community where these are being produced, but they actually build batteries for submarines and satellites, like really batteries like that are the size of a room. And so that's an interesting industry that we have here in Warrensburg, but probably most people will be able to relate to our largest employer, which is Whiteman Air Force Base. So Whiteman Air Force Base is just to the east of Warrensburg. It is the home of the 509th Bomb Wing, and it is the home of the B-2 Spirit stealth bomber. So every time anyone is at a sporting event and they see those stealth bombers fly overhead, that is Warrensburg, Missouri, coming out of Whiteman Air Force Base. We have a couple claims to fame here in Warrensburg. We are the home of Blind Boom. So Blind Boom, he is an American pianist and a ragtime composer. He overcame poverty, disability, and racism to become a famous American pianist. He had a very unique sense of music. He created a very unique American sound by combining his classical training with his understanding of pop music. He is a precursor to really the Kansas City jazz music that we are so used to when we talk about 18th and Vine. But also you can hear his influence in modern jazz, R&B, and rock and roll. Our other claim to fame is Old Drum. And Anna mentioned our local animal shelter. So in the 1800s, we had a court case here in Johnson County, Missouri, where Old Drum, he is a farmer's dog, and he was found dead. And the farmer, the neighboring farmer, who was actually his brother-in-law, it was discovered that he shot him, and there was a court case over the shooting of someone's dog. The closing arguments for that case were given by George Graham Best, who was a very prominent attorney in Missouri at the time. and he coined the phrase man's best friend. And he talked about how we can never always count on your family members, and you cannot always count on your best friends, but you could always count on your dog, and he is truly your best friend. So that is really where that phrase came from. So we are the home of man's best friend here in Warrensburg, Missouri.
Very cool. I learned a lot of new things about Warrensburg, and I love how much dogs are featuring prominently in this episode. But I'm going to get us back on task so we can learn more about your fire service. But I also want to learn a little bit more about both of you. So Danielle, can you just tell us about your career path and how you got into your current role as city manager in Warrensburg?
Yeah, so like most millennials, this was not my first stop. I actually started in the Federal Reserve Bank of Kansas City as a research analyst in their economics department. I quickly learned that running regression analysis all day long was not going to be a fulfilling career for me. So I went back to get my degree, and thinking through when I was going through undergrad, the classes that really spoke to me and resonated with me, and one of those was my public finance class. And remembering there was a finance director who came and spoke to that class, and he was sharing with how we were developing the downtown and how we were financing the redevelopment of that downtown and in my university city, which was Manhattan, Kansas. But and I remember that story, and I was like, I've got to figure out how to build downtowns and how to build community. And I knew that that is what my passion was going to be. So went back to school for that. Wound up in Mission Hills, Johnson County government, Mission Hills, worked in those first suburbs of Kansas City, wound up in a suburb of Lenexa, Kansas. However, I always was drawn to those smaller communities, especially those university communities. There's something about living in college town. There's something about the atmosphere that we have here. So when the assistant city manager position became available in Warrensburg, Missouri, I jumped on that opportunity. I knew that that was the next step for me. And within short order, so that was also in February of 2020. So within short order, we had the pandemic. We did furloughs here with the city of Warrensburg. We had some struggles with our animal shelter that we previously mentioned. And the current city manager took a different job, and I was offered the interim position, and then ultimately got the full-time position in September of 2021.
Okay. Well, congratulations. Thanks for sharing a little bit about yourself. Anna, what about you? Tell us about your career path into your current role as a captain in the fire department.
So I started in high school. I was very active with the American Red Cross, and I was a part of the disaster service team. And I was able to see the firefighters work firsthand and get involved with them in that way. After I graduated from high school, there was a hiring process going on for the fire department. So I applied and I got hired as a student resident. So I attended college and then worked as a student resident for the fire department. About 2 years later, a full-time position became available. So I was hired full-time in September of 2008. I worked through many positions, driver specialist. I took many classes along the way. I finished up my degree while working full-time and worked as a step-up captain until my promotion in 2019.
Okay,
As captain.
Cool. Yeah, very cool. Congratulations on your promotion.
Thank you.
So the reason why I wanted to visit with you all today is I think you have kind of a unique situation there in Warrensburg. According to the National Fire Protection Association, nationally, only 8% of firefighters are women. About 30% of the Warrensburg Fire Department is comprised of women. So Danielle, I'm going to let you start. What recruitment and retention strategies are you using in Warrensburg to beat that national average?
So I think we are not unique here in Warrensburg, looking at other cities and the struggles that we're having recruiting and retaining in public safety. So we are struggling in that area, and some of the strategies that we are looking at, I'm glad Anna brought up our student residency program. I do think that is a really unique thing that we are able to provide folks in our community. So what that is individuals can work. They live actually at the fire station, so we have a dorm. We currently have 4 rooms. So they attend university, but then they also work as a part-time firefighter, and they live in the dorms. They live in the firehouse, and just that exposure to the fire service, I think, is a really unique opportunity that we can offer, and it helps them pay for their schooling as well. And so we've also done work with our pay structure. So just this year, we were able to take a look at our entry level for our entry firefighters, and bump that up. And then also taking a look at what we need to do for retention. So in 2020, we had about 90% of our fire department turnover. We were having a really hard time retaining that middle firefighter. So we were getting entry level firefighters to come in. We have our captains, our battalion chiefs in place, but we were losing that firefighter specialist, our drivers, those kind of middle level firefighters. And it put us in a real crunch. And Anna can talk a little bit about this too, but we didn't have anyone who was trained and experienced enough to drive the fire truck if we were to have an accident. So we were having to do a lot with overtime. And so we've worked really hard on trying to retain those firefighter specialists and those drivers. And then also just, what we could do with their salaries to make them stay and compete. Because we are so close to the metro, we do struggle being able to compete with the Lee Summits, the Kansas City, Missouri. But we offer a lot of training experience. Anna talked about all the classes she's been able to do. I think we excel at being able to train our firefighters and give them that training experience. While we can't necessarily give them a lot of the experience of fighting a fire in a high rise or being able to respond to several calls, and that experience that they would get at a larger fire department, we can provide them a lot of training experience. And so that also being said, we're losing firefighters to those other departments because we have trained them so well. I think one of the things, though, that really contributes to the number of women that we've seen come on board in the last year is, we have Captain Koons, who serves in our fire department. And I don't want to underestimate the old adage of seeing faces like yours in the spaces that you want to be. So I think we have Captain Koons serving in the fire department, and then we have some of those part-time female firefighters come on board, and they're seeing more and more females like, well, I can do that. I can be there. I can. So I think another strategy that we used, we recently had an opportunity to hire a new fire chief. So Chief Jennings just started in January of 2021. And, he's committed to making those choices and making sure that women have a voice in the fire department and have a place in the fire department here in Warrensburg. So I think that was also a strategy towards making sure that we are recruiting and retaining more women in our fire service.
Yeah, but thank you. Leadership and representation are so important. Well, Captain Koons, I want to turn to you. I learned that this month you led an all-female crew on a shift at the fire department, and you all think that this is the first time that had happened in the Warrensburg Fire Department. So when did you realize that shift would be staffed by all women? Was that just like a coincidence of scheduling?
It was a coincidence scheduling. I am very fortunate that my permanent driver assigned to me is also a lady firefighter. She does excellent work. So our chances have greatly increased since that there's always at least 2 of us on that engine. We usually run with a crew of 3. So the nozzleman had called in sick, and the next available person that was available to fill in on his spot happened also to be a woman firefighter. I didn't do the scheduling. It's handled by the battalion chiefs. So it was about 7:45 when I knew that truck was going to comprise of that. And we were very fortunate that day. We also had a part-time firefighter working on her training hours. So we had four firefighters on the truck that day.
Yeah. And, you know, hearing you talk about it, like, I don't mean to minimize it, but just kind of a small thing. It was just another day at work for you and the team. But I think it's kind of special that it's an example of just normalizing women in the fire service, that, you know, they're just trained staff, part of the team. And it just happened to work out that crew was all staffed by women. But, you know, if the crew was all staffed by men, we wouldn't think anything of it. And we kind of see that it's all women and think it's special. But, you know, I think that's why we're really highlighting this in our episode, just normalizing the role that women play in these positions that have been kind of male dominated in the past. As a leader in the department, in a command role, how are you ensuring a culture that welcomes the contributions from men and women and even non-binary employees?
I just think it's really important to get all the employees engaged. And then once they're engaged, we're able to highlight their strengths so that they feel valued within the department and they want to contribute.
Yeah. Can you give an example of that? Like, what kinds of things are you doing to help people feel included and like they can contribute?
Well, there's so many different things that people bring to the fire department and skills. You often hear firefighters have second jobs, and a lot of them are in building trades or working on their cars. And when the fire department's called, usually they're called because they don't know who else to call. It's not just for a fire or a car accident, a medical emergency. You know, they're like, hey, I'm stumped. I don't know what to do. How can you help us? And then having all these diverse backgrounds, we're able to help that person out. So we go back to knowing each other and what we bring to the table, and we really highlight that and say, hey, you know, you're good at this, you know, fixing this car or whatever. That could help us out on this call. And they feel like they're part of the team and, hey, they really need me. I feel good about this.
Okay. Yeah, I love that leadership example of building upon the strengths of your team. So ELGL and its partners recently released the new Local Gov Diversity Dashboard. We're very proud of this effort. And initially, it's tracking the gender gap in local government chief appointed leadership. So Danielle, I've got a question for you. You're part of 24% of chief appointed officials in local government in the state of Missouri who are women. Missouri is a little bit below the national rate in terms of women in those chief appointed positions. In Warrensburg, you're located in Johnson County, Missouri, that's 50%, and that's because of you, Danielle. There are two positions in the diversity dashboard, one man and one woman. So you've got the rankings all the way up to 50% in Johnson County. Good job. But I'd love to just have you kind of reflect on that. What experiences from your background prepared you for that chief administrative role? And what strategies do you recommend to help more women become prepared and empowered and supported to move into leadership roles?
Well, I think what prepared me most for stepping into this role was having mentors and coaches who not only made space for me at the table, but also gave me opportunities to engage in the conversation at that table. You know, and that they were both male and female. And I think that, you know, having mentors who encouraged me to pursue different trainings, who gave me worthy projects to really stretch and challenge myself a lot of times too in some of those previous roles I held before being the city manager. You know, some of the most interesting and challenging projects that I had to work on were with, you know, in that assistant two role, where you're having opportunities to work on projects where I was able to work with different departments with the city to engage in different areas of the city. I think that was really valuable to be able to and have the trust of those mentors to let me um, take the reins and really stretch and grow and challenge myself in those roles and opportunities. Um, so I think when I want to encourage and strategies that I would use, I think one of those is to find a mentor or find a coach who will be honest with you and tell you those weaknesses that you have, areas that you need to work on. I think being able to find a mentor, find a coach, or find a group of colleagues, or your support source. I think that's really strong too. One of the things that I wanted to talk a little bit about in those strategies is when this position became available, and I was talking to one of my colleagues about this position, and I was questioning myself. I was in the interim role and I was questioning myself, like, I don't know if I'm cut out for this. And she said, don't you dare think about not submitting your resume. Don't you? She's like, you are doing the job, and you're doing it well, and you've been doing it for, at that time, it'd been like 4 or 5 months. She's like, don't you dare not think about submitting your resume. Like, what's the worst that can happen? They can tell you no. And I think that that's something that we struggle with as females or women, is the fear of not being qualified, or of um, not trusting ourselves enough. And we don't put ourselves out there. We're afraid of that rejection. And so I think one of those strategies that I would say is be confident, and know yourself, and know what your skill set is, and um, don't sell yourself short. And then kind of along those lines too, being resilient. This wasn't the first city manager job I had applied for. There were a few others along the way too. And you just got to keep, I truly believe that the right organization and the right city manager will eventually find each other, and things will click, and you'll be able to really make things happen in the community. And I think we're at that point here at the City of Warrensburg. We've got a lot of momentum. We've got a lot going for us. We've got a lot going on. We've had our first all-female fire crew. We got 30% female firefighters. We have 30% female police officers. But we've also got a lot of projects going on in the community, a lot of momentum and excitement, and it just feels like we're kind of on the cusp of something big. So I think finding that fit for yourself and an organization that feels right for you.
So, gosh, you said so much there that I just want to pick up on. I think it's really encouraging for our listeners to hear you share your experience and be a little bit vulnerable about, having gone through other interview processes that didn't work out, and your anxiety about applying for this job, but ultimately feeling pushed by a good network of supporters. So just thanks for being open and sharing that. And I hope that touches some of our listeners and gives them encouragement to maybe try for a position that they otherwise wouldn't have thought of. And then I loved what you said about, don't just make a seat at the table. Encourage people to engage in the dialogue when they sit down at the table. And it sounds like that you had mentors who did that for you, and that really made a difference in your experience. So I think that's a great message for people who are in that mentor role, whether you're mentoring men or women, to just make sure that they're getting the best opportunities that they can to participate. I'm stealing a page from Dr. Sarah Martin at my sidewalk. I looked up, and there are about 1,800 girls under the age of 18 in the city of Warrensburg. Some of those girls may be looking at the captain of their fire department or the city manager of their city and thinking about their own possibilities. So I want to ask each of you, what message do you want to share with any girls who are curious about careers in local government? And Captain Koons, we'll let you go first.
I'm sorry that you asked this question, because there's so many diverse things that you can do within the fire department. It's kind of like the sports team, track and field. You have the shot putters, you have the high jumpers, you have the sprinters. They're all good in one area of it, and they all come together as a team that you need them all for that champion. Well, within the fire department, you can work as a rescue company. You can be a fire investigator, an inspector, dive rescue. So it makes it so diverse that you don't have to be specialized in one thing. And we need all these different types of people to make the fire department work. So what I tell these young ladies is to come to the fire department, come talk to us, and find out about the fire department, either locally in Warrensburg or wherever they're from, that there's no day that's the same. You get to work inside, you get to work outside. It's always different. And I think that's the key thing, that even what Danielle said, she went to a job and she was sitting in the office looking at these numbers all day going, dang it, this is not for me. I need to find something that I can get out and move around with. With the fire department, you get to do that and experience a lot of different activities and skills and training.
Yeah, I love it. That's a great message. Danielle, what about you?
I agree with Anna. Come visit us. Come shadow us. Not only go down to the fire department. We got all kinds of things you can do in the fire department, but that's one of the greatest things about local government. We have so many different fields that you can do. We have human resources, we have finance. So if you do like sitting around and looking at spreadsheets and analyzing numbers, there is a role for you in the budget office. I would share with them also that there's, we have a public works department with the engineering aspect of it. There's planning departments. There's all kinds of ways to get involved. We're looking for all kinds of skill sets in local government. And then the other thing that I would just say about local government is there is no career I can imagine that is more rewarding than serving in local government and giving back to your community and building your community and watching it grow and watching it thrive and improving the quality of life for the 20,000 or 30,000 or 120, 150,000 people that you serve in your community.
Oh, I'm getting the feels, Danielle. I mean, this is the Gov Love podcast, and you're just making me feel all the love about the difference and the impact we make in our communities. So thank you.
I love my job. I love my job.
Oh my gosh. What a great kind of closer. So we are going to wrap up. Thank you so much for joining the Gov Love podcast and giving us a chance to just highlight the great work that you are doing to promote equality in your organization, in your fire department. And this is a little way for Gov Love to celebrate Women's History Month. As we wrap up, Danielle, we always like to ask our guests, if you could be the Gov Love DJ, what song would you pick as our exit music for this episode?
Yeah, so Like a Girl, Lizzo.
Ooh, okay. I like it. All right, so that ends our episode for today. Thank you so much to our guests, Danielle Dulin and Anna Koons. It's not too late to start planning for #ELGL22 coming up in October 2022. This year, we're gathering in Phoenix, Arizona on October 13th and 14th. Early bird tickets will go on sale soon, but most importantly, plan on being at the most engaging local government conference of the year coming up in October. Thank you for listening. You can reach us at elgl.org/govlove or on Twitter at GovLovePodcast. This has been GovLove, a podcast about local government.